Right from the start, here's the deal. You didn't click on this just to hear about random matches or nostalgia highlights. You came for the exact moments that changed everything. The days where WWE didn't just move forward, it shifted direction entirely. The kind of days where, if they never happened, the WWE you know today might look completely unrecognizable. And that's exactly what you're getting. No filler, no detours, just the moments that rewrote history in real time. There are certain days in WWE history that hit differently. You don't just remember them, you feel them. Not because of a 5-star match or a perfect storyline, but because something happened that forced the entire industry to change course. Some of these days created brand new eras. Others ended them without warning. Some made careers overnight, while others exposed cracks that had been growing for years behind the curtain. These aren't just moments, they're turning points that left permanent marks. And once they happened, there was no going back. Let's go back to November 13th, 2005, a date that still carries weight every time it's mentioned. Eddie Guerrero passed away at just 38 years old. And it wasn't just another tragic loss, it felt like a breaking point. Fans were heartbroken, the locker room was shaken, but beyond that, something bigger started to unfold. This wasn't just internal anymore. The outside world started paying very close attention. Suddenly, wrestling wasn't just entertainment, it was being examined, questioned, and criticized on a completely different level. The conversation turned harsh and direct. People started asking what it really took to maintain those larger-than-life physiques, those punishing schedules, that constant physical toll. Substances, pain management, exhaustion, it all came under a microscope. And the uncomfortable truth? Some of it wasn't entirely wrong. Years of pressure had quietly built up damage that couldn't be ignored anymore. That moment forced WWE into action. The wellness policy came into play, bringing structure, testing, and consequences. Whether it started as damage control or genuine concern, it changed the system. Health was no longer something left to the individual, it became enforced. And while it didn't fix everything overnight, it created a barrier that hadn't existed before. The tragedy is that for Eddie, it came too late, but for everyone after him, it changed the rules. Then there's November 9th, 1997. The kind of date that doesn't just sit in wrestling history, it reshapes it. The Montreal Screwjob, a moment so controversial that even today fans still debate who was right, who was wrong, and whether it was ever truly justified. But what makes it unforgettable isn't just what happened inside that ring, it's the ripple effect that followed. Before that night, WWE was in trouble. World Championship Wrestling was dominating the industry, pulling in massive ratings and making WWE look like it was falling behind. The momentum wasn't just shifting, it had already shifted. WWE needed something drastic, something unpredictable, something that could break the pattern. And in the most unexpected way, they found it. Not through a storyline, but through real-life tension that spilled into the show. When Bret Hart was double-crossed in his home country, it didn't feel like entertainment anymore. It felt real, and that reality blurred the lines between fiction and truth in a way wrestling had never fully done before. At the center of it all was Vince McMahon, who in that moment stopped being just a voice behind commentary. He became the face of betrayal. But here's where everything changed. Instead of denying it, instead of trying to fix the damage quietly, WWE leaned into it. Vince embraced the hatred. He transformed into the Mr. McMahon character, a villain so authentic that fans didn't just boo him, they genuinely despised him. And that shift, it helped spark the Attitude Era. Now jump forward to January 26th, 2024, a very different kind of turning point. No dramatic match, no shocking finish, just a shift in power that changed everything behind the scenes. The groundwork had already been laid. Vince McMahon stepping away in 2022 opened the door for Triple H to take control creatively, and for the first time in a long time, WWE started to feel different. Stories had more direction, characters had more depth. It felt steadier. Then Vince returned briefly, tied to bigger business moves, leading into WWE becoming part of TKO. That alone signaled change, but January 26th made it final. Vince resigned amid new allegations, and for the first time, WWE was no longer operating under his shadow at the top level. That's not a small shift, that's seismic, because for decades, WWE was Vince McMahon. Now it had to prove it could exist without him steering the ship. Triple H remained in control creatively, and while not every decision has landed perfectly, the overall structure has held. The shows didn't fall apart, business didn't collapse. If anything, WWE showed it could evolve, and that raises a massive question going forward. Who truly defines WWE now? Back in November 18, 1993, the company faced a very different kind of crisis, one that didn't come from inside the ring, but outside scrutiny. Vince McMahon was indicted over steroid distribution allegations, and suddenly the image of professional wrestling took a major hit. Up until that point, WWE had been riding a wave of growth, bright lights, big personalities, and a sense that nothing could slow it down. But this wasn't something you could script your way out of. The media narrative was brutal. Wrestlers weren't being seen as athletes anymore. They were being labeled in ways that stuck. Even though Vince was acquitted, the damage had already been done. Public perception shifted, sponsors looked differently, parents questioned what they were watching. WWE kept going, but that clean, untouchable image, it was gone. And once that kind of crack appears, it never fully disappears. Then there's July 14th, 1984, Black Saturday, a moment that quietly set the stage for one of wrestling's biggest rivalries. Vince McMahon's expansion strategy broke the traditional territory system, and when he took over Georgia Championship Wrestling's TV slot, it sent shockwaves through the industry. This wasn't just business, it was a signal. Wrestling was changing. The old rules didn't apply anymore. And even though Vince eventually sold that slot back, the chain reaction had already started. That moment planted the seeds for WCW to grow into something powerful enough to challenge WWE head-on. Which brings us to March 23, 2001, a date that closed a chapter in the most definitive way possible. Vince McMahon bought WCW, not outperformed, not outlasted, bought. That single move ended the Monday Night Wars instantly. Years of competition, innovation, and risk, all wrapped up in one transaction. WWE didn't just win, they absorbed their rival entirely. And just days later, when Vince appeared on the final episode of Nitro, it felt surreal. The war was over, and while WWE gained control, something else disappeared too. The urgency that comes from having real competition, that edge that forces you to be better every single week. Now rewind to March 31st, 1985, WrestleMania. Not just an event, a gamble. Vince bet everything on turning wrestling into mainstream entertainment. Celebrities, spectacle, presentation, it was a completely different vision. If it failed, WWE might not exist today, but it didn't. It succeeded beyond expectations and transformed wrestling into a cultural phenomenon. That night didn't just launch a show, it created a blueprint that still defines WWE today. Then comes July 24th, 2007, a date that doesn't feel like history, it feels like tragedy. The Chris Benoit incident, a real-life horror that forced the entire industry to confront something it had avoided for too long. The aftermath changed everything. Concussions were taken seriously, dangerous practices were reduced. WWE had to evolve, not for business, but for survival and responsibility. It's one of the darkest chapters in wrestling history, but it led to changes that likely saved lives moving forward. July 22, 2008 marked another major shift, the PG era. WWE cleaned up its content, aiming for a broader, family-friendly audience. That meant removing elements that defined the previous era. Some fans hated it. Chants for the old style never really stopped, but WWE stayed the course, and over time, PG became the standard. Whether people liked it or not, it reshaped the product completely. Then, September 5th, 1995, the start of the Monday Night Wars. WCW Nitro debuted and immediately made a statement. Head-to-head competition wasn't just happening, it was aggressive. When Lex Luger appeared on Nitro after being a WWE name, it sent a clear message. This wasn't friendly competition, this was a battle. And for years, it pushed both companies to their limits. Finally, February 24th, 2014, the launch of the WWE Network,
A move that looked risky at first, it disrupted the traditional pay-per-view model and created uncertainty, but it also opened the door to something new. A full content library, new programming, a platform for growth. NXT thrived because of it, and over time, the gamble paid off. WWE adapted again, proving that reinvention is part of its DNA. These aren't just moments you look back on, they're moments that built the WWE you see today. Every era, every shift, every risk, it all traces back to days like these, because WWE doesn't just evolve slowly, sometimes it changes overnight. And when it does, you can feel it.